Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our virtual CTCL College Day. As you are entering this room, you may notice that you are on mute and your camera is off as well, so our presenters cannot hear or see you. However, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen where you can ask our presenters questions throughout this entire session. Also, we do have more sessions like this available on our website. And lastly, this session will be recorded. So if you'd like to view it again, it will be made available on our site next week. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to our presenters.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're so excited to have you. My name is Philip Goodwin. I'm a Senior Admissions Counselor and Visitor Center Coordinator here in the Office of Admissions. I'd also like to introduce my colleague, Jessica Stuns, who's a fellow admissions counselor and a professor in the Integral Department as well here at St. Mary's, David Arndt. We're really excited that you're here with us today. We're going to just go ahead and jump right into St. Mary's College and share with you a little bit about who we are and what we're all about. Feel free to please ask questions throughout today's presentation. We'll do our best to answer them. If we don't have the opportunity to get to all the questions today, we'll be sure and reach out to you directly afterwards, after the presentation. Next slide. Awesome. We are located in the town of Moraga. We're about 30 to 45 minutes away from Oakland, Berkeley in the East Bay part of California, about an hour away from San Francisco. As I share with our prospective students, I say about an hour away from San Francisco, but that's at like 2 o'clock in the morning with no Bay Area traffic. Otherwise, you can get right into the heart of the city in about 20 to 30 minutes without traffic. We're a pretty small college, as many of the CTCL or the colleges that change lives are. We have about 27 to 2,800 undergraduate students with a little over 4,000 students altogether when you also include students in our graduate programs. So folks getting their master's degrees and doctorate degrees and things like that. And we really like to describe St. Mary's as having three distinct characteristics. We are first and foremost a liberal arts institution, a Catholic institution, and a Lasallian institution. And we'll kind of work through each one of those key distinct features throughout today's presentation. And lastly, but I think folks really hear about St. Mary's because we're an NCAA Division I school. We offer some pretty stellar sports programs for both men and women. You might have seen our men and women play on ESPN, for example. As a graduate of St. Mary's College myself, that was a really exciting piece of my college history, my college career, was calling my parents on the phone, telling them to turn on ESPN because I was featured on the men's basketball game as a spectator, not as a participant, of course. But if NCAA Division I sports aren't your thing, we've got some really great club sports and intramural sport programs. If you definitely want to continue playing sports in college, but maybe you don't want to have that full-on D1 commitment to a collegiate sporting program. I love this photo of St. Mary's. So we're down in the bottom. This is really where we're situated here in the Bay Area. If you look really closely, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge and Alcatraz in the distance there. But we've got a beautiful campus that sits on over 420 acres here located in the East Bay Area. We've got great access to some hiking trails, biking trails, running trails, all throughout campus. And it's really just a beautiful place to be. As I mentioned earlier, we are a Lasallian Catholic institution. What does that look like? How is that different from other institutions? These are our 5 Lasallian core principles. It's something that we're really grounded in and founded upon. In the late 16th, early 17th century in France, there was a gentleman by the name of Saint John Baptiste de La Salle. He was a priest living in France at that time and came from a relatively wealthy background. And he recognized that only the wealthy were the ones that had access to an education at the time. And he really wanted to do something to change that. So he ended up using his family's fortune to help build schools for the poor. And the people that helped him build these schools became known as the de La Salle Christian Brothers. So very similar to a nun or a priest in the sense that these folks have dedicated their lives to the religious life. We have about 20 Christian Brothers serving in a wide variety of different capacities here at St. Mary's. They could be your professor, your counselor, your therapist, your career counselor, or your residential director, a live-in staff member who lives with you in the residence halls. I love this, this photo here. That's Brother Camillus in the bottom left-hand corner. He just recently celebrated his 90th birthday last year, and he teaches classes on meditation. And you can always count on him to meditate with you or for a fist bump as you're passing him in the hallway as well. But I really want to draw attention to respect for all persons, concern for the poor and social justice, inclusive community. Really, St. Mary's, I think, is largely emblematic and symbolic of the larger Greater Bay Area, rooted in these ideas of social justice. We are a social justice service-oriented community here at St. Mary's And I think many of our students who choose to come here are also coming here to do service throughout their 4 years. Speaking of the diversity of St. Mary's, I grew up in the Central Valley here in California. I went to a pretty diverse high school, and that was something that I was really excited about when I was applying to St. Mary's College, but also excited about attending St. Mary's, knowing that I was going to be part of a diverse campus community of students, staff, and faculty. Once again, largely symbolic and emblematic of the larger Greater Bay Area as well. So more than half of our students actually identify as multicultural or as Black, Indigenous, or people of color, which is something that we really welcome, value, and celebrate here at St. Mary's College. Additionally, more than 1/3 of our students are also first-generation college students. So they're the first ones in their families to go and attend college. A little bit later, my colleague Jessica will talk about the wide levels of support that we have for our students, specifically our first-generation college students. And ironically enough, more than half of our student body actually identifies as non-Catholic, being a different faith tradition other than Catholicism, let's say. And a lot of students ask me, where will I see that Catholic identity or that Catholicness play out in my day-to-day life as a student here at St. Mary's? We offer daily Mass, Mondays through Sundays. We have a student-run, student-led Mass that happens every single Sunday at 8 o'clock. It's not required of students to attend. Even as a non-Catholic, I started attending Catholic Mass every single Sunday, as my parents told me I had no excuse not to go to church when the chapel is literally 1,000 feet in front of my residence hall. And in fact, my most devout Catholic friends started calling me the best fake Catholic that they know because I was going to Mass more frequently than they were. Go figure. But I definitely felt a calling to go to Mass every week because it was a great opportunity for me to connect with my fellow student body. But also I found myself getting increasingly involved in the Mission and Ministry Center, going on retreats, helping plan retreats, but also jumping in on service projects, spending a month in South Africa and in Kenya during January term, which we'll talk about a little bit later, doing service work, for example. Students are also required to complete 2 theology and religious studies courses. The first course is called Intro to the Bible and its Interpretation. It's really like using your Bible as the textbook for the class itself. Now, your upper division theology and religious studies requirement is up to your choosing. So you could take a class rooted in Christianity or Catholicism, but we also have opportunities for students to step outside their comfort zones, study a faith tradition that maybe you know nothing about. Maybe you have a friend who's of a different faith tradition than yourself. We offer courses in Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, religions of India to really give you, I think, a better perspective on the people of the world and the religions of the world as well. I think it's really important, many of the CTCL schools, excuse me, that you will have probably already heard are typically smaller liberal arts colleges. And a lot of folks ask me, what is a liberal arts education and how is it different from other institutions? First and foremost, I think something that really sets liberal arts schools apart from others is that we're a small education. You're going to get a small class sizes. You're going to be part of a smaller campus community here. And we'll talk here in a little bit about what our classes look like, how many people are in a class, but also you're going to have the opportunity to study everything under the sun, really, because our core curriculum really encompasses everything from the sciences to the arts, the liberal arts, thinking about philosophy and politics and sociology and kinesiology, including biology and geology, for example. And so you really have an opportunity to study everything. Dive deep into everything, dabble in a little bit of everything as well. The other thing I think that's really important is that you're going to be able to develop these soft skills, these critical skills that are necessary for really you to be successful in any field that you choose, regardless if it has something to do with your major or not. I tell folks I was a politics major here at St. Mary's College, now working as an admissions counselor. I'm not necessarily using my politics degree every single day as an admissions counselor, but I'm really successful in this field because of those critical thinking skills, because of those analyzing skills, argumentation, public speaking, becoming a better writer. All of these skills are skills that you can't necessarily put a dollar amount on, but rather they're going to allow you to be successful in any field that you choose, in any industry that you're going to choose. And I think that's really what sets St. Mary's graduates apart from other graduates from other institutions, is that you're going to be able to think for yourself. You're going to be able to argue and develop these critical thinking skills in any field, in any career that you choose as well. Lastly, I think something that got me excited about attending St. Mary's was that you're really going to have an opportunity to build a professional relationship with all of your professors, with your staff members. You're going to get a lot of opportunities to connect with them one-on-one in these small class sizes. Maybe you meet your professor for coffee in their coffee office hours, if you will. And that's something that we really encourage and see all throughout the different classes that you'll have here at St. Mary's, is that your professor is going to know your name and your face by the end of week 1. And as somebody who's probably very familiar with that right now in your high school classroom setting, it's really awesome to be able to walk into those office hours. Your professor knows your name and your face. They know practically your whole life story. And chances are they probably already know why you're coming to them within those office hours as well. And so that was something that I absolutely loved. When I was a student here, one of my politics professors, Patrizia Longo, David, I'm sure you're very familiar with Patrizia Longo, for example. I would go hiking with her before school, after school, on the weekends with her and her 2 dogs. I've been to her house. She had me over for dinner. And that's really the St. Mary's relationship that you get to build here with your professors. That is not uncommon. I guarantee you that if you come here and become a student at St. Mary's, you're going to have at least one, if not several professors that you could go to for anything, even beyond the academics. I have to share this anecdote. One time I skipped class because I wanted an extra day of Thanksgiving break. And it's, I thought, that's what every college student does in America, right? You skip class and nobody's going to hold you accountable or responsible. Boy, was I wrong. And I shortly realized that night when I was enjoying an extra day of Thanksgiving break, I got a phone call from a phone number I didn't recognize. And looking back on the situation, I probably should not have answered the phone call. And I said, "Hi, this is Phil. Phil, this is your politics professor, Patrizia Longo. How are you doing this evening?" I was absolutely mortified, y'all. I was embarrassed. I could not believe that my professor was calling me after hours to check in on me. I thought she was calling because she was angry at me. Little did I know that she was actually calling to check in on me. I had not let her know that I was going to be out of class that day, and she thought something had actually happened to me. And that's why she was calling to check in on me, to see if there was anything that I needed. And it's really mind-blowing to me as a graduate now, looking back on that experience, to have a professor and several professors who really go the extra mile for their students, offering to do something for them when they're sick, when something's going on at home. It's really mind-blowing how awesome these professors are here at St. Mary's. And as a product of a St. Mary's college education, I'm very biased, but really I was not expecting that when I started here as a first-year student. Talking about our small class sizes, here at St. Mary's, our average class size is just 19 students, and our student-professor ratio is 10-1. When I was a student here, my largest class size was 35, which was like a general ed, math, science, or history course. And my smallest class was just 9 students, which was typically my upper division major specific classes. It was actually a politics of immigration course that I took my senior year. Imagine walking to a classroom and you only see 8 other people looking back at you. That was the whole class, y'all. And it really allowed us to dive deeper into some of the texts that we were reading for classes, and really allowed us to also explore different points of view on the politics of immigration. And I absolutely loved that. Next slide. And David, I'm actually going to turn it over to you to share a little bit about what the Collegiate Seminar program is like here at St. Mary's and how this is different from other institutions who may not necessarily require the great books in order for students to graduate.
Okay, yes. I've taught in Collegiate Seminar since 2013, and it's a series of 4 required courses that all students take. It's basically a kind of series of great books courses, starting with Homer and ending in 21st century texts. But the key point is that the point of a liberal education is to learn to think for ourselves. And we don't learn to think for ourselves by listening to professors talk. We learn to think for ourselves by thinking through questions we care about in dialogue with our peers and in dialogue with the texts of great thinkers. So you can see that the table is round in the Collegiate Seminar classroom. And the function of the professor is not to give lectures, but to create the conditions under which students can learn from the text and learn from each other. So I absolutely love teaching it because I learn from all the classes that I take. And I feel like it really sets St. Mary's apart as a true liberal arts college and a place where that encourages students to develop their own ideas and to learn to think for themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. That was perfect. And Jess, I'm going to toss it over to you to talk about January term.
Sure. So unlike Phil, I did not spend my undergraduate years at St. Mary's. I went to a school up in Seattle, but I'm a current graduate student in our MBA program. But I had a dear friend that went to St. Mary's for their undergraduate 4 years. And I remember talking to this friend and hearing about all the classes that they were taking in January, or I should say the one class they were taking in January. And I was just floored about the different classes they were taking. So for us, we are a semester school and we run on the 4-1-4 system, meaning a student will take about 4 classes in the fall. They'll take 1 class for the entire month of January and about 4 classes in the spring. So that should sound kind of weird to you if you're listening. That's a little bizarre to take 1 class for a whole month. If you're, a normal senior in high school, you're taking like 4, 5, 6, 7 classes all at the same time. But the chance to just focus on a single course for a whole month and just deep dive into it, that's something special. So for us, we say to students, hey, you may be majoring in biology, but take a class completely unrelated to the sciences. Take a class in theater, take a class in English, in history. Do something that just sounds fun and interesting and inspiring. And the fact that we have this built into our curriculum, every St. Mary student does it, no matter what you major in, no matter what you study, everyone's doing it. The fact that it's built in, that means that everybody has kind of this elective-driven course, kind of a fun class, if you will. And no one's worried about staying on track to graduation. No one's worried about getting off your course requirements. It's just a built-in moment for fun. So listed here are a few examples of what we've offered the past few years. A couple of favorites that I personally would love to take. We have a dog psychology class where students learn how dogs think, what they think about. I think I saw a new January term course coming up called The Rise of Nerd Culture, talking about kind of the fun of nerdiness. There is a class about Netflix, actually, where students learn about what that does to our minds and how way back when you had to wait until Wednesday night at 5 p.m. to tune in and watch a single episode, but now we can sit down and watch upwards of 5 or 6 episodes at a time. So you can tell that these are classes that you wouldn't be taking if you're majoring in kinesiology, right? Or if you're majoring in the performing arts. They're just kind of a fun moment to have with your peers and classmates. So not only do we have on-campus experiences, but you can also take this internationally or domestically. Personally, I think a international or domestic January term trip is a perfect chance for a student to get their feet wet, see what it feels like to be learning internationally. If you like it, you can do a study abroad as well. Study abroad is typically 3 to 4 months away, whereas January term is just 3 to 4 weeks. It's a great chance to kind of see what it feels like. If you like it, then do study abroad. If you don't like it, then at least you had a chance to try it. So internationally, earlier Philip was talking about our Lasallian kind of identity. And so there are Lasallian schools across the world. Phil, I don't know if you want to talk about your Lasallian service internship, but one second. So there was a young boys' school in Romania. And so our students went to Romania for the Lasallian boys' school, and they were doing stuff in the classroom with them. And after school, we've taken groups to Puerto Rico where they've done hurricane relief work. And then domestically, we've taken students to the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah. And personally, I would love to take this class. They go to Yosemite where they learn about the effects of altitude on your ability to make decisions. And I don't know about you all, but I've seen a lot of people get married or get engaged on the top of a mountain, and makes me wonder if they, have really thought through everything. But Phil, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about your LSI.
Yeah, y'all. So in 2014, I had the opportunity to actually do a Lasallian service internship where we were actually doing service abroad for the month of January term. So I actually lived with the host family in the Black Townships, an hour outside of Johannesburg, South Africa, working with women and children who have both been infected or affected by HIV/AIDS, working with them to develop a household income via embroidery and beadwork through a local nonprofit. And then my senior year in 2016, I actually spent a month living and working at one of our sister Lasallian schools in Nyeri, Kenya, about 3 hours outside of Nairobi, working and playing and tutoring kids from preschool age all the way through high school age. We also spent 4 days on a guided safari in Kenya, which I have to share. It was one of the most incredible, unreal experiences of my entire life. We spent another afternoon at a giraffe sanctuary where we got to kiss giraffes on the mouth. It was the most disgustingly awesome Instagram photo-worthy opportunity ever. I wish I could have captured the look on my parents' faces when I shared that photo with them, because it was awe and disgust, definitely. And then we spent another afternoon at an elephant sanctuary right outside the city of Nyeri, where we actually got to play with little baby Dumbo elephants, which has to be the cutest thing I think I've ever done in my whole entire life. So it's amazing the opportunities available for students during January term. It allows you to step outside of your comfort zones, do something, study something. You really get to be someone different during the month of January term, and the courses change every single year. So what might be offered one year might not necessarily be offered the next year. And I think that's really the beauty of January term.
Thanks, Phil.
All right, so if you are on this call, you might be thinking about, what you might want to study, what you might want to major in. I do like to say that for most majors, you don't have to declare your major until after your first year. So you have some time to kind of see, what you like, what you don't like, what you never want to take again. And that's kind of the exploratory, identity of being a liberal arts school. So we kind of give you some time to decide. Of the majors here, we don't have any impacted majors, and that might be kind of a more California term, I'm realizing. In the state of California, we have many great colleges and institutions and universities, and because of their popularity and really popular majors like business or nursing or psychology, so many people want to take these majors that they aren't able to get the classes that they need to graduate in 4 years. What's great is we don't have the problem of impaction. You can double major, you can major and minor. In fact, it's very common to see many of our students kind of doubling up in different areas that aren't necessarily related. So please keep that in mind. And later in this presentation, we'll be hearing from a very wonderful professor of ours about the Integral program, and that is one of our most unique programs on our campus. So Philip was alluding to kind of the built-in support that we have at our school. Along with our liberal arts identity, we believe that students need to have support from day one, from the second they step onto campus. So listed here on the left, you'll see all the different ways that we have our support. One that I like to highlight is a success coach. So this is somebody who every first year student, every transfer student, everyone is assigned a success coach. I love the word coach in that word because it kind of is it's not just a faculty advisor. It's not someone that's just within your major. This is somebody who's kind of checking in on that holistic person that you are. They're checking in about, hey, how is, the transition to college going? How do you like having all this newfound freedom? Have you found the health and wellness center? Have you gotten your flu shot? Questions like that, just kind of making sure that you are getting acclimated, that you're finding your social circles, that you're finding the different offices that you need to get in touch with. So that's a success coach, and everyone's assigned one, and you're able to meet with them all 4 years. Another distinct program that we have that's about 47 years old and part of the TRIO kind of network, which is a national association. So the High Potential program, which we fondly call the HP program, is a program for students who identify in one of two ways. They either come from a low socioeconomic background or they're the first in their family to go to college. This ties right back into our Lasallian principles: inclusive community, respect for all people, making education accessible to everybody. And that is truly a Lasallian kind of piece of our identity that is shown off in this program. There is built-in peer mentorship. There's a chance to have mentorship with professors, as well as different breakout sessions and breakout groups to just kind of learn more about what it feels like to be a first generation college student and to have some community in that too. And then lastly, of course, your 4 years or however many years you spend at St. Mary's are going to be fun, they're going to be great, but we also are thinking about down the road, how we're preparing you for applying to jobs, internships, and all of that is happening with our Career and Professional Development Services Center. I think that one of the most unique things about our school is that we are a school that has a lot of spirit. When I was in high school, I believed the myth that in order to go to a school that had a lot of school spirit, I had to go to a school that had like 20,000, 30,000 undergraduate students. That is not the case. For us, we get very excited, very rowdy, especially for many of our big men and women's basketball games, soccer games, rugby, track and field, cross country. There's a lot of spirit. This photo here is of our Gale Force Student Club. It's actually the largest club on campus. Over 2/3 of our undergraduates belong to this club. And then down here, the bottom left-hand corner, this is a fun tradition. Personally, I love this. I'm not sure if any of you watch the show Survivor, but it kind of reminds me of the show. Basically, in the first week of school, all of the first-year dorms, or 6 of them, the 6 first-year dorms compete as an entire building. This is a chance for first-year students to get to know each other, to know the people that live 2 floors down. And they're competing as a building to become the first-year Olympians. So the event is called First Year Olympics. There's some really fun YouTube videos on our YouTube channel if you're curious to learn more, but lots of puzzles, physical challenges, mental games. It's a blast. So you'll see that we guarantee on-campus housing for 2 years. We have a first-year live-on requirement in the first year, and then the second year is guaranteed. We have more than 60 clubs. That number is always growing. One of my personal favorites is our Gale Gaming Club. This is for lovers of video games and board games. We have a lot of student job as well on campus. I think that this is really convenient and really handy for people that, you know, want to be working while also being a student. And the fact that you just have to walk across campus to work is great. It's very convenient. So this happens, we have some jobs in the admissions office, the rec center, our cafeteria, our library. There are so many different types of jobs that are available. And lastly, I think that a St. Mary's student is really aware of the need to give back to communities in need. And that is certainly seen in our 70,000 hours of community service. So we already talked about this. 100% of our students will live on campus their first year. As Phil was saying, if you played sports in high school, but you're not really sure if you'd want to play at the collegiate level, we have 23 club and intramural sports, and this is a fun way for students to remain active. And then we have our 16 D1 sports too. All right, let's talk about tuition and scholarship. So if you're like most people, when you see a price tag of $66,000, that is a lot of money. And it can be kind of shocking, right? I always say to students, whether it's St. Mary's, whether it's another private college, do not look at that price tag and think that every student that's going to St. Mary's is paying that price tag. That is not true. The reason why is because we have a lot of internal scholarship, grants, and ability to bring down the cost of attendance. As you'll see here, the average financial aid package last year was $38,000. So let's talk about how that can be. So when you press submit on your common application, you are automatically considered for up to $30,000. This is based upon your GPA and the holistic review of your application. If you choose to transfer into St. Mary's, you're automatically considered for up to $15,000. Say you want to take a year or two at your local community college, we are more than happy to take you for your remaining years and welcome you into our community. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, if you attend a Lasallian high school, then you are considered for $13,000 in merit scholarship. Now let's talk about major-specific scholarships. So as I mentioned, you are not required to declare your major when you start at St. Mary's right off the bat. However, there are some students that know exactly what they would like to study. If you're a senior in high school and you think that you know what you'd like to major in, if it's any of the majors listed here in the bottom left-hand corner, there are scholarships within each of those majors that are up to full tuition. And what's important to note is that these require a separate application due on January 15th. I see a lot of high school seniors miss out on this opportunity because they're so focused on submitting their common application that they don't even think about scholarships. So if you're a senior in high school, definitely perk up your ears right now because this is an opportunity you do not want to miss. So if it's any of these majors, you can apply to those. After I stop sharing my screen, I will share some links that will take you directly to our website to tell you what each of those majors is looking for. Because for the business major, they require an interview. For English, they require a writing sample. For physics, they require like a math competition. So it really varies a little bit. In the center, you'll see we have full tuition scholarships in our MAPS program, which is for the sciences, so biochem, biology, chemistry, math, and physics. And on the right, you'll see that we have a scholarship in communication and journalism as well. And these all do require a separate application, so please, please, please do not miss out on that. And lastly, we have scholarships for those who have parents or grandparents that attended St. Mary's. And we also have a speech and debate scholarship. So keep your eyes out for those. So let's talk about the application process. We are on the Common application. The Common app is shared by like 700 other colleges and universities. You'll see we're on the Common app or the St. Mary's app. Frankly, we read these the exact same way. There's no advantage to one or the other. I always say if you're applying to more than one Common application school, just apply to St. Mary's on the Common app. That'll save you time. You want to remember another username and password. it'll just be easier. So make it easy on yourself and apply on the Common App. The fee waiver code is right there. It's Gale's 21. If you're a senior or you know any other seniors that want to apply to St. Mary's, please feel free and circulate that code. That will waive the $60 application fee. We look for a letter of recommendation from an academic teacher or counselor. Be thinking of someone that knows who you are in the classroom, of course, but also maybe a little bit about who you are outside the classroom, what you're up to, how you keep busy in the non-school hours. New this year, we are going test optional. If you have not taken your SATs or ACTs, don't worry about it. I've talked with students who are taking SATs in Nebraska. They're flying all the way out there to, get the test done. So don't do that to yourself. We are test optional, and there are a lot of seniors in high school this year that are kind of in the same boat there. And lastly, we are looking for your official high school transcript, grades 9, 10, and 11. So feel free and submit that too. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see our deadlines. You can ignore this unless you're starting in February 2021, but you're probably starting in fall 2021. So early action is November 15th and regular decision is January 15th. When we say early action, that is non-binding. So even if we say yes to you, you do not need to say yes back to us. You can see where else you got in. You can see what scholarships you received and all of that. So if you apply early, you will hear back faster though, as soon as like the first week of December. So that's kind of fun. And since most of us are in high school, I'm going to skip over this slide, but just know that we are a very transfer-friendly school, should you want to go that route too. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let David share his screen, and we will hear a little bit about the Integral program, which is one of our distinct majors at St. Mary's.
Myself.
I think you might be, oh, there you are.
There I am. Okay. So I am a professor at St. Mary's, and I teach in something called the Integral Program of Liberal Arts. And I just want to talk about our program for a few minutes because it's an extraordinary program. It's actually, it's like a liberal arts programs at other universities. I went to Yale University. They have something called the Directed Studies program. Stanford has something called the Structured Liberal Education program. Notre Dame has a program in liberal arts. Kenyon has a program in humane studies, and St. John's has a great books program. So the Integral Program of Liberal Arts is the liberal arts program at St. Mary's. The liberal arts program is different from a normal department because it's student-centered. All the classes are discussion-based. All the classes focus on classic texts. And instead of specializing in one field, you focus on many disciplines. So ordinary departments train students ultimately to specialize in just one field of knowledge, whereas liberal arts programs help students learn to think for themselves by reading and discussing great books from a number of different disciplines, including the humanities, the arts, mathematics, and the sciences. So what's the basic idea? We think the point of college is to learn to think for yourself, and that we don't learn to think by sitting through lectures and taking exams. We learn to think for ourselves by thinking through questions we care about, in dialogue with our peers, and in dialogue with texts written by great thinkers. So how are classes different in the Integral program? They're all active, they're small, they're student-centered, they're discussion-based, they're focused on classic texts. There's no textbooks, there's no lectures, there's no exams on which students have to regurgitate what professors said in class. Instead, students are evaluated through projects in which they're encouraged to work out their own understanding of things and to think for themselves. And every semester, the students meet with all their professors to talk about how they're doing and to get feedback in person. So the faculty in Integral are called tutors rather than professors because their task is to give personal attention to individual students. The tutorial system at St. Mary in the Integral program is similar to the tutorial system at Oxford and Cambridge universities. The curriculum is also different in Integral. It's based on the notion that students learn best when they learn together and when they can learn from each other. And they also learn best when they can see the connections between different disciplines. So the curriculum is a coherent 4-year program of study with seminars that focus on great works of literature, philosophy, politics, and history, tutorials that focus on practical exercises in mathematics, science, language, and music, and laboratories that offer hands-on experience in astronomy, biology, and physics. Students can, outside of the common curriculum, students can also take up to 9 courses in any department they want to at St. Mary's. So the question is, well, how do I get it? This sounds interesting, but isn't this impractical? What am I going to do? It seems actually, in my opinion, that liberal arts education is more practical than specializing in one particular field. Most employers are not interested in having a specialized knowledge in one academic field. What they care about is your ability to think for yourself, your ability to speak and write clearly, your ability to listen and read deeply, your ability to work on one's own and in cooperation with others. And I think the most important thing that people are looking for is the ability to continue learning. So we believe that education is it's not about filling a bucket, it's about lighting a fire. That is, you're not a passive recipient of knowledge, you are actively going out and developing a desire to work out your own understanding. So what have Integral alumni done after college? 50% of our alumni have earned advanced degrees. More than 85 have law degrees, 40 have PhD degrees, 30 have MBAs. And the others have gone on to successful careers in many, many fields: business leaders, physicians, teachers, writers, poets, information technologists, etc. One of the poet laureates of the United States was a graduate of the Integral program. So if you're interested in something different from an ordinary college education, what we do is similar to what's offered at Yale and Stanford and Kenyon and St. John's, but it's in beautiful California, and with a small program that's very encouraging and supportive community. So if you're interested, please reach out to me. My name is David Arndt. The director of our program is named Liz Ham, and my email address is there. But if you just type Integral Program of Liberal Arts, St. Mary's College into Google, our names will come up. You can reach out to us. Please feel free to reach out to us. I would love to talk with you about St. Mary's. I will hand it back to Philip.
I had just taken off my glasses because something got in my eye, but glad y'all are here. Want to open it up for Q&As now. Any other questions that have come up? I know throughout today's presentation, I had a couple questions come up, and I just want to kind of highlight some of those that folks asked, because I know they might be some very similar questions for others who might be interested. So for example, I want to highlight those departmental scholarships. So just a handful of our majors do offer departmental scholarships. And if you're interested in one of the performing arts scholarships, that is a separate, like Jessica had mentioned earlier, that's a separate application and potential interview process. So that also includes like an audition, for example. So you don't have to audition to be a music or performing arts major, but you would have to potentially audition if you were actually interviewing for the departmental scholarship. Is there a school mascot? Maya, I love your question. Thank you so much for asking that. We are the Gales, which is kind of like an Irish Celtic warrior. You will see Gideon the Gale at a lot of our men's and women's basketball games. Y'all, if you've never watched one of our basketball games, you have to check them out this season, because the spirit that you get at our basketball games really is unlike anything else, especially because we're such a small school. That was the highlight of my first year, was watching, for example, our men's and women's teams play against Gonzaga. When I was here about a year ago, we actually defeated Gonzaga for the WCC, the West Coast Conference Championship. Campus just came alive that night. I mean, it was like one big party and celebration to celebrate our win over Gonzaga. I also wanted to highlight, and Jess, maybe this is something that you could also highlight as well. What is it like to have access to transportation here at St. Mary's? Can I have a car my first year? Do you have a bus system? How do I get to the Golden Gate Bridge? Those types of things. Jess, maybe you could share a little bit about what it's like to get around here in the Bay Area.
Yes, great question. So we allow every student to have a campus or have a car on campus. That's available freshman through senior year. Although we say that it's not necessary to have a car on campus to feel like you can get around. We have a shuttle that comes to campus, I believe twice an hour, and it is a shuttle that will take you to two different BART stations. And for those unfamiliar with what BART stands for, it's the Bay Area Rapid Transit. The BART will take you to anywhere, really. I mean, Walnut Creek, it could take you to Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco. And then once you get into those cities, it's very easy to get around as well. So it is easy to get around, and we're also very lucky to be placed near many walking paths. For those who enjoy running or mountain biking, we have a trail system that connects the towns of Lafayette, Orinda, and Moraga, and it can take you all the way to Walnut Creek, I believe. So there's a lot of fun ways to stay active, and we are, like we've mentioned, very, very lucky to be in the state of California, where it's relatively mild most times of the year.
And it's so funny. I remember I had friends asking me when I was a student here, you know, do you go into San Francisco like every weekend? Y'all, throughout my 4 years, I can count on one hand how many times I visited the city. There was always so much to do here on campus, from Blingo, which is like bingo, but for really cool prizes. They would do a carnival every year. All of you are way too young to know who Aaron Carter is, but they had an Aaron Carter concert. But they would bring people here, and it was so much fun. All the different activities that I never felt the need to ever get off campus, for example, other than to get my like Saturday morning bagels down the way at our local Safeway and to pick up a coffee. But other than that, I was on campus the whole time, really, hanging out with friends, going for hikes. They would do movie nights in the quad, for example, but there's always a lot for especially first year students to do. But even, you know, for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. I did live off campus my sophomore through senior year. I kind of wanted a little bit of separation between where I went to school and kind of where I lived, but I still felt part of the St. Mary's campus community. And I lived here in the local area. So my second year I lived in Lafayette, which is about a 10 to 15 minute drive away from campus. And then my senior year, I also lived in Orinda, about 10, 15 minutes away from campus. So if you don't live on campus after your first year, there's a lot of different apartment complexes here in the local area. And I would say it's pretty common for about 4 students to share like a 2-bedroom apartment, let's say, paying anywhere between $600 to $800 a month for rent, to kind of give you some perspective as to what it looks like if you live off campus after your first year, for example. I know we only have about 2 minutes left, which that 2 minutes is going to go really, really quickly. I just wanted to reach out to see if anybody had any questions before we go. Something else we want to highlight too is that all of our contact information is available on our website. So if you go to the admissions staff page, or you go to the integral department page, for example, you can get in contact with any one of us. If we are not your admissions counselor, we are happy to get you in contact with your admissions counselor. I also want to highlight that in just a couple weeks, from November 2nd through the 5th, we have our virtual fall preview week. I recognize some of the names here as folks who've actually attended our virtual fall preview week, but it's a 4-night program. And it's like a conference. It's set up like a conference style. So you can select the different workshops that you'd like to attend and really get to connect and learn more about the admissions financial aid process, connect with the different deans of our schools, but also learn more about student services and different resources available to you as students throughout your 4 years, from student disability services to the Center for Writing Across the Curriculum to residential experience, and really everything in between. So definitely check that out. It's also available on our website as well. St. Mary's College of California, not to be confused with St. Mary's College of Indiana or St. Mary's University of Texas. We are the one in California in the beautiful Bay Area. And it looks like we have a couple questions real quick. Are weighted GPAs accepted, or does the college only look at cumulative GPA? We take our total academic weighted 9 through 12 GPA. So really giving you the opportunity to have the highest GPA possible to qualify for the highest merit-based scholarship possible. Last question, we're going to answer this in the nick of time. How is the amount of work in relation to the free time for students? How vigorous is the work ethic, and how much time do students have to pursue miscellaneous hobbies and interests? Great question. I would say a lot of students, if you are if you have great time management skills, you can definitely have a campus job throughout your 4 years. I would say that's something that is definitely doable, depending upon your course load, of course. So, you know, you might have some semesters that are a little bit busier than others, but definitely doable to have an on-campus job, and you'll have plenty of free time, trust me. And we're going to turn it back over to our host today.
Thank you to our panelists for presenting today, and thank you to the students who joined us. As you exit out of this session, you will be presented with a link to a 4-question survey. Please complete it. Your feedback is always appreciated. Also, you can sign up for more sessions like this on our website. And lastly, this recording will be available to watch again on our site next week. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day, everybody.